Life doesn't come with a warning. It doesn't ask your permission before throwing an upheaval, a loss, or a sudden pain your way. Sometimes it feels like a battlefield where your name is called without warning, without consent. But it is precisely in those moments when everything seems on the verge of collapse that the way you rise, the way you confront what's before you, will define who you are and shape the path you follow next. Suffering is an inseparable part of the human condition. We inhabit an imperfect world where anything beautiful can be shattered, where hurt can stem from what we cherish most. Sometimes the pain is just a minor cut. Other times it is a wound so deep within the soul that it seems beyond healing. Our reactions vary wildly. Some withdraw, some rage, some sink into despair, yet others find a way through, not by denying the pain but by understanding it, moving beyond it, and growing stronger from it. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." In this video, you will be guided through the 11 golden principles of Stoicism, helping you maintain composure, gain self-awareness, and take steady steps through life's harshest trials. Before we begin, leave a comment saying, "I grow stronger," and join us for principle number 1. Accept the battle that has come. When life unexpectedly delivers a punch, what is your first reaction? Do you fight back, run away, or freeze in shock? Most of us have faced moments when everything collapses: a breakup, an unforeseen medical diagnosis, an unexpected failure. In those moments, our mind often screams, "Why me?" But in the spirit of Stoicism, the right question is not why, but what must I do now? The first Stoic principle in confronting adversity is this: accept that the battle has arrived. This is neither surrender nor a sign of weakness. It is the first and most crucial step toward regaining control of your inner world amid the storm outside. When we deny reality, we change nothing and only waste our energy on complaints. And while we waste ourselves resisting what has already happened, time and the opportunity to act coldly slips away. Acceptance is the moment we nod to reality, not because it is pleasant, but because it is true. It is the instant you tell yourself, "I did not choose this fight, but now that it's here, I will face it." This mindset opens a new clarity rather than straining against the facts. You observe them, analyze them, and ultimately act with purpose. A vivid example of this principle is Helen Keller, one of the 20th century's greatest symbols of resilience. After falling ill and losing both her sight and hearing at the age of 2, Keller had no chance to experience the world like other children. Yet she refused to let that loss define her life. With the guidance of her teacher Anne Sullivan and her own unbreakable spirit, Keller learned to communicate through sign language, to read Braille, and even to graduate from college, a feat unprecedented for someone with her disabilities at the time. She did not deny her hardship. She embraced it as part of her journey, and that very embrace transformed her into a beacon of hope for millions who followed. Acceptance does not make hardships vanish, but it changes you. It lifts you out of the victim's role and places you in the position of the one who acts. And from that moment on, every step you take, even the smallest, is an act of strength. So when life hurts, stop asking "Why me?" and start asking "What can I do right now?" For that is the beginning of your inner power. Principle number 2. Tap into your inner strength. When life knocks you down, Your first instinct might be to fight back outwardly, blaming circumstances, people, or fate. But according to Stoic philosophy, the answer lies in the opposite direction. Turning inward at the heart of suffering, it is inner strength, not external conditions, that forms the foundation for us to rise and move forward. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who faced war, plague, and rebellion, did not choose to run from pain. Instead, he picked up his pen and wrote meditations in military camps through harsh winter nights, reminding himself to keep his mind clear and unmoved by the chaos of the world. When we realize our greatest power lies in how we respond, not in what happens to us, we shift from a passive state to an active one. In that moment, inner strength begins to emerge. What's important to understand is that tapping into inner power doesn't come from random bursts of inspiration. It comes from consistent practice. A Stoic continuously asks, "What is within my control?" It's a simple question, but one that unlocks a profound kind of freedom. Rather than collapsing under circumstances, they practice meditation to create space between emotion and reaction. They keep journals to unpack false beliefs, just as Marcus Aurelius did throughout his life. They question themselves in the Socratic way. Am I sure what I'm thinking is true? And from there reclaim mastery over their thoughts. When you learn to flip the lens of life from the outside in, you don't just survive the storm, you build a lighthouse within. Every mindful moment, every time you stay calm in anger, every step forward, even when your heart trembles, is proof that you're growing stronger from the inside out. Because when life hurts you, what you truly need is not an escape, but an anchor. And that anchor is nowhere else but within you. Stoicism doesn't teach you to feel nothing. It teaches you to feel everything, without letting anything control you. And if you think that principle is hard enough, the next one is even bolder. Turn a death sentence into a life sentence. Sounds paradoxical, doesn't it? But you'll find that what feels like the end might just be the beginning. Principle number 3, turn your death sentence into a life sentence. There are times when life makes us feel like we're standing before a harsh verdict. Losing a job, a breakup, failure, illness. In those moments, it's easy to say things like, "I'm done for," "I can't get through this," or "I've lost." But it's right there at what feels like the end that we come face to face with something important. How you name your pain determines how you live with it. The language you use doesn't just reflect your mindset. It shapes your beliefs, which in turn guide your actions. When you keep repeating things like "I can't do it" or "I always fail," you're not just telling a story, you're reprogramming yourself to believe in helplessness. On the other hand, if you consciously shift your words, "I'm learning to do better," "I haven't succeeded yet, but I'm making progress," you're sending your brain a new message. I still have a choice. Take Tara's story, for example, a freelance graphic designer who once said she felt shattered after losing her first ever contract. In that moment, she told herself, "I wasn't good enough." But instead of letting that sentence eat away at her self-worth, she paused and rewrote it. "Now I know exactly where I need to improve." That shift in language pulled her mind out of the spiral of failure and into the mindset of action. She upgraded her portfolio, invested in new skills, and 3 weeks later she landed a new contract, bigger and better, not because the pain disappeared, but because she renamed it. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." That isn't just a comforting phrase. It's a reminder that even when the outside world collapses, there's still one thing you fully control: how you respond, how you label the experience, how you tell the story of your life. A failure doesn't have to be a death sentence. Unless you treat it as one, it can be a life sentence, an invitation to live with more clarity, depth, and strength. So when life hurts, ask yourself, what story am I telling myself? And if that story makes you smaller, rewrite it, because you can. Have you ever changed the way you named a pain in your life? Share your story in the comments below this video and inspire someone else today. Principle number 4, persistently show up every day. Stephen King, one of the most successful novelists in the world, once shared that he writes 2,000 words every single day, no exceptions, not on holidays, not on bad days. During the years of raising young children, facing financial pressure, or simply when his ideas pushed back, he still sat down and typed. Many of his greatest works, The Shining Misery, it weren't born out of bursts of inspiration, but during plain, even dull mornings, when he simply showed up and did his job. That act of showing up consistently is the essence of Stoicism. A Stoic doesn't wait for miracles or inspiration. They choose deliberate action every day, regardless of how they feel. Hustle through the lens of Stoicism is not about going all out for a few intense days and then collapsing. It's about the discipline of showing up, the habit of being present and taking small intentional steps. Precise, steady, resilient. No need for grandeur, just be there. This practice becomes even more vital when life hurts. When you lose your direction, your drive, or the things you once believed were essential, Stoic reason calls you back to the smallest action, still within your control. Just write 300 words. Just exercise for 10 minutes. Just clean your desk. Because small actions are how we fight back against helplessness. They remind us we haven't quit, that we're still in the fight, even if we're only moving a few centimeters each day. Stoicism doesn't demand that you always be strong. It only asks that you don't disappear. Don't let pain paralyze your action. By setting small goals and following through consistently, you build momentum. And from momentum, you build belief. The belief that you can keep going no matter how bad today feels. This isn't just a theory. It's how extraordinary people have made it through suffering. Not in grand leaps, but in steady, unshakable steps. Remember, big results don't come from the days you do a lot, but from the days you don't want to do anything, yet still do something. The Stoic lives in that moment, not to prove anything to anyone else, but to stay true to themselves. When life hurts, your choice to keep showing up each day, even through one small action, is the most beautiful form of resistance. Principle number 5, don't let fear control you. When life brings us pain, the first and easiest thing to arise is fear. But this fear doesn't come from the present reality. It comes from the stories our minds invent, the worst-case scenarios, the imagined disasters that haven't even happened. Stoic philosophy sees this clearly. Fear is a product of imagination, not of reality. That's why the first step isn't to worry less, but to understand exactly what we're afraid of, and whether it's within our control. Principle number 5 doesn't tell us to deny fear. On the contrary, it urges us to face it head-on. Stoicism teaches that fear only has power if we allow it to take over our thoughts and decisions. When we freeze up because of something that hasn't happened, we're surrendering the present, the only thing we truly own. Take the story of Kevin. a young founder, standing backstage before his very first pitch presentation. His palms are sweaty, his heart pounding, his mind racing with thoughts. What if they laugh at me? What if I forget everything? What if no one invests? These are all future scenarios, and every one of them is outside his control. But instead of spiraling, Kevin takes a deep breath and asks himself, what can I do right now? He remembers a technique to calm the mind. The fifth, recognize 5 things you can see, 4 sounds you can hear, 3 things you can touch, 2 scents you can smell, and 1 taste you can identify. In just 60 seconds, Kevin pulls his focus back to the present. He steps onto the stage. He speaks clearly and confidently. He closes the deal. It's not that the fear disappeared, but the fear no longer controlled him. Stoicism doesn't promise we'll always feel brave. It gives us something even better, the ability to act in spite of fear, as long as that action is within our control. And it's in that moment between vague anxiety and clear action that we reclaim our power. When life brings you pain, don't try to run from fear. Look at it, separate it from what's real, and ask yourself, what can I do right now? The answer might be small, but if you begin there, fear stops being the one in charge. You are. Principle number 6. Turn pressure into motivation. Pressure isn't the enemy, it's just energy, and how we use that energy determines the outcome. In moments that feel suffocating, your body releases cortisol, the stress hormone, but at the same time, adrenaline kicks in, the chemical of alertness, readiness, and action. Stoicism doesn't tell you to eliminate pressure. It teaches you to cooperate with it. When life backs you into a corner, you can choose to collapse or pivot and strike back with reason and willpower. Pressure is a signal. It means what you're facing matters. Instead of letting fear take over, create a simple system of action. The Pomodoro technique works for 25 minutes, rest for 5, helps you stay focused without burning out. Break down your goals, reward yourself for each step forward, and most importantly, tell yourself, every second I grow stronger. Serena Williams, one of the greatest athletes of all time, once said she felt most alive in the highest pressure moments. A Grand Slam final, millions watching, expectations sky high, and she didn't back down. Instead of being overwhelmed, Serena used stress to awaken a higher version of herself. Those 23 Grand Slam titles aren't just symbols of victory, they prove this. If you can master your mind, pressure becomes the springboard that launches you further. A Stoic doesn't run from adversity. They step into it, face it, and use it as a mental gym. Just like a sword is sharpened through fire, you need turbulent moments to toughen up, to see yourself more clearly. And that strength doesn't come from avoidance. It comes from transformation. Before we move on to the next tip, can I ask you a quick favor? If you're enjoying what you've learned so far, and maybe even smiling a little right now, hit that like button. And hey, if you haven't already, consider subscribing too. Why? Because when you hit like and subscribe, you're telling YouTube, hey, this content is awesome, and that helps spread this positive energy to more people who might need a lift just like you did. So go ahead and share the joy. Let's make sure more people can join us on this journey of self-growth and positivity. Now let's move on to principle number 7, where we'll learn how to rise even stronger after every fall. Principle number 7. Learn from your falls. Life doesn't promise a smooth path. There will be times when we fall, stumble, and fail so hard it feels impossible to get back up. But through the lens of Stoicism, every fall isn't the end. It's a lesson, a new chapter of learning and growth. Failure, when you look closer, isn't just bad luck to overcome. It's valuable data. If you're calm enough to observe and honest enough to confront it, you'll find clues. What skill was missing? Was the timing right? Were you truly prepared mentally, strategically, and resource-wise? No failure happens at random. There's a reason behind every result. And when you begin to decode failure like an analyst instead of a victim, you enter a more effective learning cycle where every fall becomes a step upward, not a pit dragging you down. Thomas Edison once said, "I have not failed, I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That quote isn't just a testament to willpower. It captures the Stoic spirit perfectly. Instead of complaining or blaming, he approached failure rationally, without emotion, and kept experimenting. That's how he discovered the right material for the light bulb through thousands of trial and error attempts. Edison didn't run from mistakes, he walked straight through them. And on that journey, faith in God, or in other words, belief in a higher order, a divine providence above all chaos, became a vital source of strength. When everything collapses, when logic begins to doubt itself, faith keeps you steady, not because it guarantees success, but because it reminds you that every challenge has a reason. If you can keep a clear mind, you'll see the guiding hand even in the dark. In Stoic thought, this parallels the concept of logos, the universal reason that governs the cosmos, something deeply aligned with the will of God. Learning from failure isn't easy. It takes courage, honesty, and a lot of inner discipline, values that Stoicism emphasizes. But every time you manage it, you move closer to real self-mastery. And that's the most meaningful victory, conquering yourself in the middle of the wreckage life leaves behind. So when life hurts you, pause, observe, analyze, learn. Don't just get back up. Get back up wise, because in the fall you're being forged into strength no success could ever teach. Principle number 8. Look back on your journey. When life wears you down, take a moment to look back at the path you've traveled. There are days when we wake up heavy-hearted, doubting ourselves. Dreams that once burned brightly suddenly feel distant. Goals that once kept us up at night now sit quietly as bullet points on a forgotten list. But this isn't the end. It's a reminder. It's time to look back on the journey you've taken. Stoicism doesn't urge you to live in the past. It encourages you to acknowledge it, like a warrior studying their scars to remember they've survived. When you hesitate, when the present feels chaotic, your resilient past is the map that keeps you from losing your way. The fact that you've overcome hardship isn't a coincidence. It's proof, and proof carries power. Create a victory journal, a place to store the moments you didn't give up, the words of encouragement you received, the numbers you once thought were unreachable, and yet you reached them. These aren't just memories, they're weapons against self-doubt. Take a simple example. Those that struggled in its early days, then suddenly exceeded revenue targets in the first few months. The leadership printed those results and hung them in the office as a reminder. We've done it before and we'll do it again. Every time sales dropped, the team looked at those numbers not to feel complacent, but to remember the spirit that got them there. That memory reignited their fire. Stoics don't teach us to avoid emotion. They teach us to master it through reason, and sometimes reason needs to be fueled by proof drawn from your own past. Not everyone is starting from zero. Sometimes you've just forgotten how far you've already come. Take time to look back, not to dwell, but to remind yourself you've fought, you've survived, and you're still moving forward. Every scar is a certificate that says you're strong enough to handle what's next. And if looking back can remind you of the strength within, imagine what could happen if you chose to define the person you want to become. That answer lies in principle number 9, the compass you can cling to when everything else is falling apart. A promise to yourself. Are you ready to write it? Principle number 9, make a manifesto for life. Every morning, Hannah, a freelance designer living in the midst of a fast-paced life, stands in front of the mirror and says out loud, "Today I will finish 2 presentations and find a new client." She's not just cheering herself on. This is a commitment, clear, specific, and positive, that she repeats like a daily ritual to start her day. She doesn't say, "I'll try," or "I hope today is better than yesterday." She says, "I will." And because of that, she acts with direction and clear boundaries, steering clear of chaos and procrastination. That's the power of a manifesto, a personal declaration for how you choose to live. When life gets exhausting or painful, we often lose our way. Sadness, pressure, and things we can't control can scatter our minds and shake our sense of stability. That's when Stoic philosophy reminds us, you can't control the wind, but you can always adjust your sails. And a life manifesto written in the spirit of Stoicism is how you take hold of the wheel. It's a daily reminder that you're not powerless. You choose how you live, how you respond, and where you go. A true Stoic manifesto isn't a grand speech or a collection of empty phrases. It's simple, proactive, and rooted in action. A sentence like "I will" is a promise you make to yourself. Instead of letting emotions take the lead, you hand the controls to your reason. For example, "I will finish the most important task by 11 a.m. or "I will stay calm in every conflict." When you say it out loud, you're not just shaping an idea, you're initiating a conscious course of action. Writing a manifesto is one thing. What matters more is reading it every morning. Stand in front of the mirror, look yourself in the eyes, and repeat it like a warrior checking their weapon before battle. It might feel strange at first, but soon it becomes your mental anchor. Each sentence is a grounding step, pulling you out of chaos and back into your center. When life hurts you, don't give in. Stand up and write yourself a short, determined manifesto. It's more than just words. It's your inner compass. And if everyone did that, maybe the world wouldn't have less pain, but it would have more people who know how to face pain with dignity. Have you ever written a manifesto for yourself? If you have, share your "I will" statement in the comments. Who knows, your words might be the spark someone else needs. Principle number 10. Look for opportunities in challenges. When life gets tough, when everything seems to fall apart, that is often, if we look closely, the very moment when opportunities begin to spark from the ashes of adversity. Principle number 10 is not just a piece of advice. It's a mindset, one of strength, clarity, and wisdom. It's the ability to stay composed in the storm, to see through the wreckage, and recognize new pieces waiting to be put together in ways we never imagined before. In business or in life, when circumstances change suddenly, The initial chaos often causes most people to panic, retreat, or freeze in fear. But with a Stoic mindset, we don't lose our heads over what's beyond our control. We accept reality rationally and without complaint, then focus on what we can change, our response, our adaptability. That shift in perspective often reveals gaps, unmet needs, broken systems, outdated assumptions. And for those who are paying attention, that's the moment to step up, to innovate, to begin something new. Take the 2008 global financial crisis. As the world plunged into recession, travel collapsed, and the hospitality industry took a massive hit. Amid that wave of despair, two young guys, Brian Chessie and Joe Gibbia, were struggling to pay rent in San Francisco. They came up with a bold idea: rent out a spare room in their apartment to travelers. No one at the time thought that it could grow into an industry, but they saw something the market hadn't: a new demand for flexible, affordable experience lodging. Out of crisis, Airbnb was born, and it led a global wave of home culture. That wasn't luck, it was sharp observation, the courage to act, and the ability to pivot at the right moment. All living proof of Stoic philosophy in motion. Stoicism doesn't tell us to be blindly optimistic. On the contrary, it challenges us to confront brutal reality and still not give up. Once we learn to treat adversity as raw material, not to complain about but to rebuild from, we start to see that no setback is entirely negative if we respond to it wisely. The mindset of look for opportunities in challenges doesn't just help us survive, it's how we thrive in the very places others back away from. Because in the moments when life hurts the most, that's exactly when human will has the clearest chance to show its strength. And those who can stay calm, stay curious, and stay brave enough to pivot, they don't just survive, they change the game. Principle number 11. Believe in the reward on the other side. Searching for opportunity in hardship isn't just a mental trick. It's the only way to survive life's darkest moment. When you're pushed into a corner with no way out, your only choice is to find a reason to keep going. That's when Stoic philosophy reminds us, nothing worthwhile comes easy, and today's pain may be the necessary condition for tomorrow's reward. This is the essence of principle number 11. Believe in the reward beyond the pain. Belief in a positive outcome isn't fantasy, it's strategy. When life knocks you down, you need a clear vision of why you must get back up. That vision of the reward becomes your compass in the storm. You can pin it on your board, sketch it on paper, or simply remind yourself every morning, where am I headed? That clarity keeps you from being swept up by fleeting emotions or discouraged by slow progress. Stoicism doesn't teach us to chase outcomes. It teaches us to stay true to the process, because the process is the path to meaning. Still, if all you do is stare at the end goal while ignoring the steps it takes to get there, you'll burn out fast. That's why the reward must be broken down into smaller milestones, like water stations on a long mountain climb. Every time you reach a part of your goal, celebrate. It doesn't have to be grand, maybe just a shared meal, a word of recognition, or a few proud minutes to yourself. That's enough to remind you you're on the right track. Take the BVM project team working on a construction job that stretched longer than expected. They didn't just grit their teeth and push through. They broke the schedule into tangible checkpoints. When the foundation was done, they shared a simple meal. When the glass system was installed, they took a team-building day to relax. These small rewards lifted their spirits and reignited the sense of meaning behind each task, a true form of mental reward. The project finished on time, not because it was easy, but because they fed their hope with things they could hold on to. Stoicism doesn't promise that every effort will pay off the way you hope, but it teaches you to believe not blindly, but with reason, that perseverance matters, that each step might bring you closer to something that's truly worth it. The reward isn't always money, fame, or achievement. Sometimes the reward is simply that you've grown stronger, wiser, and calmer. When life hurts, keep your vision clear, celebrate the small wins, and remember, getting through pain isn't just endurance. It's a choice to believe that there's light on the other side. When life hurts, Stoicism doesn't promise to erase the pain, but it offers you a way to face it with reason, with calm, and with the belief that you always have control over how you respond. Through real-life examples, one thing becomes clear: adversity doesn't discriminate, but your response defines who you are. Whether it's war, illness, or personal loss, the Stoic mindset remains a guiding compass, helping people rise above and inspiring the world along the way. Now it's your turn to reflect. Do you believe the Stoic mindset can help people stay grounded in the face of pain? 1. Strongly disagree. 2. Disagree. 3. Neutral. 4. Agree. 5. Strongly agree. If this video inspired you, like it, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more powerful content ahead. Remember, every challenge is a chance to prove your strength and grow even stronger. The journey is long, but the reward is waiting on the other side of your toughest moment.